Today's episode of Voiced is from r/entitled parents and is about a parent who demands their child's partner be fired if they don't date their daughter, and another post where half-brothers threaten to sue over $16K but end up costing themselves $158K. Who do you think came out on top? Subscribe if you enjoy. You will date my daughter or I'll get you fired. Thank you guys so much. I was really not expecting this post to blow up like it did, but stuff happens. So for some context, I'm a 17-year-old male, and I work at a Segway tour company. It's actually really fun. I get to ride Segways around the city and talk to people and get paid to do it. Plus, the tipping isn't bad. So anyway, there was a tour booked a couple of days ago, and I came in about 20 minutes early to answer emails and get everything ready. The group shows up, mother and daughter, and that's when things get interesting. I'm not going to insult your intelligence by telling you what EP and ME stand for, but D equals daughter, and FBI stands for the Federal Bureau of Investigation. EP and D come in, and I check them in. All right, I have some waivers for you to sign. Daughter, how old are you? 16. Okay, then you do not need to sign a waiver. I ask this because if kids are younger than 18, their parents sign the waivers for them. But EP only heard me say the first part, not when I said D didn't need to sign a waiver, so she thought I was just asking her daughter how old she was. This was probably what started it all. We go on the tour, and while I'm giving my spiel, EP keeps interrupting me to tell me stuff about D and find out if we are compatible. And so this nonprofit organization opened in, are you in college? No, I'm a junior in high school. I'm usually pretty free with information about myself on tours because it helps keep people relaxed and initiates conversations during lulls in the tour. Plus, it helps with tipping. Oh, D is also a junior. She is an artist. Stuff like this keeps happening throughout the tour, and every time D gets redder and redder. My mom does this too, where she just tells random mall attendants about me, so I know what D is going through and I feel her pain. At the end of the tour, I tell the two of them that they have 15 minutes to go around the town and then they can meet me back at the Segway place. I get back and start getting things set up for their return. They roll in, pardon the pun, and I take their Segways to start charging them. So what do you think of my daughter? Pardon me, what? I saw you looking at her during the tour. Are you going to ask her out? Mom, stop! Ma'am, I just recently got out of a relationship, and I'm really not looking for anything right now. What? Is my daughter not good enough for you? No, that's not it. I just said that I just got out of a relationship. You will date my daughter, and that's final. You can't tell me what to do. I'm not your kid, and if I don't want to date your daughter, I don't have to. Besides, you haven't even asked her if she wants to date me. Yeah, I don't want to date him. See, I'm going to call your boss and tell him about your terrible customer service. You will never be able to work in city name again. Pop. All right, do you want to call him and explain this situation? How you are trying to force me to date your daughter and get me fired for saying no. Then I guess the absurdity of the situation finally sank in, and her face transitioned from pure rage to slight confusion. Wait, maybe I don't want to... No, let's call him. Start to go through my contacts and press my boss's name. Let's have this conversation. I don't think that's a good idea. D, let's go. EP runs out the door. D turns to me and says, I am sorry, and then follows her mother. I hang up the phone before my boss answers and start cleaning the Segways. I have some more stories from my work. All of you let me know if you want to hear more. Wow, what a wild ride. From an overzealous parent trying to play matchmaker to a Segway tour gone awry, we've certainly had our share of unexpected twists. Now, let's dive into another story that takes family dynamics to a whole new level. This time, it's not just about awkward encounters or miscommunications. It's about money, family secrets, and the complexities of inheritance. Buckle up as we explore a tale where the stakes are much higher than a Segway tour mishap.
Half-brothers threatened to sue me over $16,000. It costs them $158,000 and possibly their parents' marriage. When I, 25-year-old female, was 3, my grandparents passed away. They set up a savings account in my name. The account was meant to be accessed by me when I was 21. At that point, it contained just over $300,000. My grandparents left me a letter saying they would like me to share the money fairly with any other Smith-Jones children, meaning my full siblings, Dad's a Smith, Mom's a Jones. By fairly, they meant that they wanted me to assess the situation and judge for myself what was fair. I never had full siblings, but I have 2 half-brothers, Mac and Joe Smith, who are dad and stepmom's kids. Due to the specific wording my grandparents used, I legally never had to give Mac or Joe any money. However, I see Mac and Joe as my brothers, and as the money came from our grandparents, I felt that the fairest thing would be to assign each of us $100,000, so we all got an equal-sized lump sum, and I figured that when Mac, the youngest, turned 21 and took his $100,000, we could split any remaining money. When I turned 21, Dad suggested I buy a house with my $100,000. I found a place I loved, but it was $130,000, and I couldn't get a mortgage, so Dad said I should borrow $30,000 from the account. I did, figuring I could pay it back before my brothers turned 21, and I have been repaying it. The account should be at $208,000 right now, but due to me withdrawing and then repaying that money, it's at $195,000, so I still owe $13,000. Joe turned 21 recently, and as I was giving him his $100,000, Joe noticed that there was less in the account than there should be. I explained and said I was going to put it all back before Mac, now 19, turns 21. Joe told Mac and both boys said I stole from them and owed them the full $13,000 back, plus $3,000 of interest that they felt they would have gotten. And they wanted it all paid by this summer, which gave me less than 6 months to bring the account up to $211,000. I said I'd do it, but over 2 years as planned. The boys then wrote up a contract to that effect. I went to sign it until I saw that it said 6 months to pay it all back. I wouldn't sign, as we agreed on 2 years. They said I should figure it out as they were entitled to that money and would be seeking legal advice. Later that day, I got an email, clearly written by them, saying that they intend to sue me for the $16,000, plus whatever is currently in the account, and additional damages and emotional distress on top of that. At this point in time, I had given Joe about $50,000 of his $100,000 because he wanted it in installments. I responded that legally they were never entitled to any of it, and given their attitudes, I'd say they've already received an amount I deem fair, so that $50,000 was all they were getting. I then got a barrage of texts, calls, and emails yelling at me for going back on our deal. I blocked them. They then took to social media, saying that I was trying to cheat them out of their inheritance and rallying our extended family into harassing me over this, and it mostly worked as a lot of people messaged me. However, I got a message from this guy called Chris Smith. Chris said he was 27 years old and claimed to be my half-brother. I had never met him before, but he sent me photos of him as a kid with our dad, grandparents, and me. He showed me that he also had an account with $150,000 in it and a scan of a letter from our grandparents saying this money was meant to be shared fairly among Dad's illegitimate children. Chris also told me we have another half-sibling who is 18 years old. He'd been looking for me for a while, but only found me when Dad shared Joe's post, which had me tagged. We checked with a solicitor to make sure, and as the boys are legitimate, they aren't entitled to anything in Chris's illegitimate child fund. And as they are my half-siblings, they aren't entitled to anything in my Smith-Jones Kids Fund either. I sent the boys a letter, formally telling them to back off, stop posting about me online, and enjoy the $50K because it's all they're getting. The day they received the letter, Chris got a private message from Dad asking if the boys can have some of Chris's fund. Chris also said no and told Dad we'd met. I told Mac and Joe about Chris and our other half-sibling with Chris's permission. So it looks like my grandparents, knowing about Chris before they died, set up 2 funds. One for the kids Dad had with my mother, who was still his wife when they died, and one for children born out of Dad's affairs, presumably to make sure no one tried to take advantage of anyone else due to hurt feelings. I'm getting a lot of trouble, but holding firm on my decision. The boys have realized that I won't back down on this, and it sounds like I've caused a schism at their house, as Joe has all the money and no intention of sharing, so Mac is now feeling twice as screwed. Plus, stepmom apparently did not know about the other half-siblings, or that my half-sister was born after she and Dad got married, and she's made Dad move into a hotel. It sounds like Dad is looking for a long-term living arrangement outside of the family home, because it looks like she is not letting him move back in. Dad is begging me to reconsider, but honestly, I'm done with all of them except Chris and my sister.
Before I talk about today's posts, please consider subscribing if you haven't already. Today, we have some wild stories from Reddit. First up, we have a 17-year-old Segway tour guide who had an absolutely insane encounter with a mother trying to set him up with her daughter. The mom was relentless, even threatening to get him fired when he politely declined. I can't imagine the awkwardness of that situation. It's crazy how some parents just don't get it. The second post is about a woman who had to deal with half-brothers trying to sue her over inheritance money. The drama escalated quickly, involving social media shaming and even a secret half-sibling popping up out of nowhere. This family feud has got all the elements of a good soap opera. I'd love to hear your thoughts on these posts. Which one shocked you more? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you for listening to today's episode of Voiced. If you enjoy daily high-quality stories, please like and subscribe to show your support.